Hello, warm welcome to everyone to another exciting session entitled From a Philanthropic Project to a Commercial Business, which was prepared in close collaboration with the State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO. First of all, before we start, we have a problem. A coconut is missing at booth 10. It's a bit funny to say because I don't know what that means, but we are supposed to say it. So a coconut is missing at booth 10. If someone has taken it, if it's something that you can take, please give it back. You want to say something about the coconut? Okay.
Please. Okay, hello, I'm Lisa, and this is Tiago. We are from Sasak Market. We have coconut bowls, and coconut cutlery set was gone missing in the last 20 minutes. So if anyone misunderstood that, it was not supposed to be for free to take, but we are very happy. We have some stock, so if anyone wants, we can send it. We also offer a little discount for anyone that wants our products. So maybe after this session, we will be at our booth number 10. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for specifying.
Thank you for the contribution. And going back to our session from today, in the second part of the session, you will be able to ask your questions or make comments. So for those of you who are in the room, you can simply raise your hands like yesterday. And for those that are joining online, we have the Slido again, so you can also ask your questions from the tool Slido.
We are now very happy to welcome here with us Massimo Bloch from SECO and Susan Grossmann from Finance Contact to join us and share a few words about the session today. A warm welcome to both of you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It's really good to see you again today. I think we skipped the introductions. And I probably wanted to start with a follow-up from the discussion of yesterday. I had the chance to talk to some of you yesterday evening. And I think the question that often comes up is how do we go forward? How can we take our idea and make it a business that we can grow? And I think many of you have the same questions, and so we thought to set up this event to frame a little bit this conversation from a philanthropic business to more of a commercial business. And I think at the end of yesterday's sessions, there were some questions that came up with this point, and I thank you very much again, Andrea, for her contribution. And we really saw the value in having entrepreneurs here speaking about their experience and sharing their knowledge. And with that, I hope that today's conversation will really go in that direction. We have here invited people that will help you with that. And I hope it's going to solve some of your questions or answer some of your questions related to that. And we'll close probably with one solution that we have at SECO for startups. We've been working with the private sector and with startups for over 20 years now, and we'll try now to reach out as well to young entrepreneurs in this context. Susan.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm extremely happy to see so many faces. Yeah, I wasn't sure, it's a big building, so I thought they're gonna end up in a big hall, a few people. It's really nice. Yeah, my name is Susan. I've been working with the private sector in emerging markets since the 1990 actually, so you can guess how old I am. And it's always been exciting. I think working with entrepreneurs in wherever they are, whatever they do is the greatest thing for me, because there is so much energy, and especially when you work in emerging countries, and especially when you work, of course, with a social mission in a way. I think my message for today would be, we have brought on board 3 different entrepreneurs, and my message would be, they basically show you a bit, there are different ways on how you can have a positive impact on your environment, or on the people you live with and you work with. It can be a social business that basically you try to build a try to build a business around a social mission, but it can also be just that you want to be a responsible entrepreneur. And I think it's not necessarily, and that's a bit what we would like to show you also. So we have Sheila, which we will start, which is basically, it's a business hotel, but they're very, very responsible entrepreneurs. So I think just to broaden a bit that view, and with that, I think let's start.
Exactly. Thank you very much for this welcoming. And yes, we would like to welcome 3 entrepreneurs who will be with us today. One will be online. They're here to share their journey with you, to explain what their challenges were, and to help you maybe overcome similar challenges that you might face as well.
After their presentations, you will be able to ask questions. We will open the discussion, and we suggest you really ask everything you want to know.
So a very warm welcome to Thomas Gayan, Sheila von Horner, and Luca Costa, who should also be joining from Zambia today. I was told that he's in a tent in Zambia, so we hope that he'll be able to make it. Thank you.
Sheila, we'll start with you. Just to tell you that our participants were tasked with the challenging activity of pitching their ideas in 3 minutes. So we would like you to give a few words about yourself first, and then maybe explain a little bit more about your business.
Thank you. I will try to keep within the 3 minutes. Thank you, Seiko, for giving me the opportunity to share my experience with this distinguished audience. I'm Sheila. I'm from Uganda, but based in Zurich. And my background is, of course, in the hospitality sector, but I've also been involved in the renewable energy sector for over 10 years, developing mini hydropower projects in Uganda. And this project, which I will present today, is developed by myself, my husband, and my family in Uganda. And a little bit of a background, Source of the Nile Hotel is a business hotel located on the outskirts of Kampala. And we are serving clients in the park like Coca-Cola, SGS, Lafarge, and the like. We give 25 rooms for accommodation. We provide meeting rooms for seminars and outside catering facilities. And right now we have an average occupancy of about over 50%, which is good considering COVID. And why we set this business up was because we realized there's just nothing going on. And the park is about maybe 20 kilometers from Kampala, but that does not translate into the 1 minute per kilometer rule, as is the case here. So that's like 1.5 to 2 hours drive, which is a bit crazy if you have to do it every day. And what we're trying to do is generally create employment, equitable employment, especially to young people, because unemployment is just such a big problem in Uganda for young people. And we were lucky, we managed to access the SECO facility, and we used it for construction materials, tiles, glass, etc. Yeah, and that's the facility.
Thank you very much, Sheila.
And now, Thomas, I think it's your turn to present yourself in a few words and to pitch your project as well.
So, hi everybody. I've never finished a pitch in French in less than 5 minutes. So English in 3 minutes is just impossible for me. So my name is Thomas Gajan. I'm the CEO of Swiss Freshwater since 2019. So it's a bit different because I'm not the owner and the founder of the company. I arrived as a CEO with a mission from the board of directors to bring the company back to profitability while keeping a very high impact. So it cannot be closer to what the title of the panel. Swiss Freshwater, we develop water kiosk in West Africa to provide reliable and affordable water in the communities. So our team includes 4 persons in Switzerland, basically for the R&D of the water treatment machines and the manufacturing, and also fundraising, and 22 persons in Senegal in order to develop the model through some franchise model. Next slide. No, sorry, previous slide. So initially, Swiss Freshwater was created in 2008 to solve the issue of brackish water and fluoride. So it was really targeting SDG number 6 at that time. As you surely know, in sub-Saharan Africa, only 24% of the population has reliable access to safe water. So since 2012, we've developed approximately 200 million liters. We've produced 200 million liters and sold them through our entrepreneurs, and we've created 400 jobs. So next slide, let's have previous slide, sorry. So the previous slide was our initial work in rural areas. There was an important move in 2019. We've realized that we had to change something in the business model. So despite very good improvements in terms of health and among the community, we definitely had to change something, and we decided to come back to the urban and peri-urban areas to develop our water kiosks. Why? Because we realized we could still have a very strong impact in terms of access to water, but also jobs creation, economic activity, but at the same time, very importantly, we could have a sustainable model without being relying on subsidies. It does not mean we cannot get subsidies. In terms of products and business model, just for you guys to understand what we do, we set up a water kiosk, we do the concrete work, we set up the water treatment engines, the water treatment machines at the entrepreneur side, we train him, and then he's able to purify water from tap water or boreholes and sell it in their community at a price which is between 10 and 3 times cheaper than any mineral water available in the market. So instead of being a pure company that gives access to water in rural areas, we decided also to be competing with mineral water, being 3-4 times cheaper, providing jobs, etc., and having profitability to continue our historical footprint in the social area. This slide, I'll skip it and explain it later during the panel, but just to show you that historically, we've been funded by private investors and loans, and more recently, it's better like this, and more recently, we've managed to get grants through co-investment grants with partners like USAID or UNIDO. So we did a little bit the things in the wrong way. I'll explain it later if I can give you a few advice about it. I think that's fine. You just have a few pictures about the entrepreneurs that we develop in our model. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. And last but not least, Luca from Zambia. Can you hear us well?
I can hear you perfectly well, thank you. Can you hear me too?
Yes, perfectly. So please go ahead.
Great.
Thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you. Unfortunately, it's not possible for me to be present in person, but thanks to technology, I can participate from afar, from Zambia, very close to Lake Tanganyika, to be precise. And I would like to thank Susan and Mr. Block for the opportunity, and also to Alexandra and the whole team from the IC Forum for the flawless organization. Now, why I'm here? We are a team of 3 young entrepreneurs, 2 agronomists and 1 economist, and we are building a coffee farm in Zambia. We have educations from ETH and from the University of Zurich, and by now between 5 and 10 years of professional experience in our respective fields. Our vision is to be the spearhead of modern agriculture. We believe that we are well equipped to ring in a new agricultural era, or at least help to shape the new era of agriculture. And we believe that only holistic concepts are the way forward. This means that we want to build the farm according to the principles of green energy, poverty reduction, and environmental protection. We achieve this by generating part of our power through solar energy, by initiating projects which are for income diversification related to coffee cultivation, for example, honey production or recycling of organic waste, and by protecting the surrounding threatened forest by setting up safeguard mechanisms. We have an investment size of somewhere between 3 and 4 million Swiss francs. And by now we have a farm of roughly 800 hectares, of which 2/3 is protected and as conservation area. So far we have created 120 people, employments or jobs, and we produce Arabica coffee, and we want to supply the premium markets all over the world. We believe that this is the way forward, that we can incorporate agroecological principles and regenerative agriculture into our business. This, in a nutshell, what we do and where we are standing. I think this should give you a quick overview, and I hope I can explain further in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the 3 of you for your presentations. And now we'd like to dig a bit deeper into your experiences by asking you a few questions. And afterwards, we'd like to also open the discussion to your questions. So do not hesitate to raise your hand or ask them via Slido.
Thank you. Sheila, we're starting with you. You touched upon it briefly, but can you share more about the motivation to start your project, to start building the hotel? And then we do the same with Thomas and Luca.
As I alluded to earlier, we noticed the absence of accommodation facilities or restaurant. I mean, it doesn't make sense to travel for 2 hours just to have a lunch, you know, a decent lunch. So we thought, I mean, given the traffic, people are buying more cars, it should definitely make business sense to put up a hotel near the park. And, you know, you have all these consultants and technicians flying in, you know, that they have to travel for 4 hours per day, you know, just to go into a good hotel in the city. It really didn't make sense from a productivity perspective. So we thought this would really be a good chance. And then, of course, we have a huge problem, as I mentioned, of unemployment for young people. Our population is more than 50% younger than 45 years old. So, you know, we thought we should definitely do something, and that was the driver to create these facilities, basically bring services closer to the people.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Thomas. The main drive.
To speak a little bit far off from the microphone. Is it better now? Okay. So in my case, it's again a little bit different. Just a few words about my background. So I had been working 15 years in a large group before, so it's a little bit different. And I was always focusing, I was very much business oriented, but also I wanted my work to be meaningful. And after several years, I became in charge of innovation and development for this company in Africa, always in Africa, after several years in Senegal there and then in the headquarters. And I had created as an intrapreneur in a large group, a startup in the Taximoto area that they know very well in Uganda. And I noticed at that time that social business and entrepreneurship, in my opinion, are the best way to create thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs much quicker than a large group that creates a subsidiary in a country or something. And after some time, I just wanted to replicate this in a smaller project, or at least in a project where I could really be in charge. Which in case is never the case when you have a board of directors anyway. So unless you keep 50% or more, guys, it will be the same. And that's how to reply your questions, my motivations was first the meaning of job, the meaning of work, and do it by myself in a smaller structure, and also the professional challenge, because the area that we try to tackle is very challenging. I knew I could bring something based on my past experience, and I was very excited to try to find a way to apply this franchise approach to create a lot of entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs in the field of water. Because I'll finish with that, but basically a motorcycle is a producing asset. For the entrepreneur. If he earns money and he makes customer happy, then it creates jobs, it creates added value and a lot of impact. And I just wanted to replicate this with water, because a water treatment machine, if it's properly used with everything around, it creates impact, it creates jobs, it creates economic activity. So that's how I came, and I was very excited by the social impact and the business challenge.
Thank you very much. We'll get to that, I think, in the next question. But Luca, how about you? When was the moment you decided you wanted to create a business?
Good question. I would say there is, for all the three of us, there is an intrinsic motivation to putting ourselves and our skills to the best possible use. I was working in different countries in Africa and South America and on commercial farms. I saw many flawed systems or many mistakes that could be avoided. And there was actually the turning point. We believe that we enjoy an excellent educational background. We know that we can do better than the status quo. We bring in solid values, and we combine these values with a business approach, because we think doing good is good, but in the end it's money that makes the world go round. And to be really sustainable, we also need to have a long-term presence. That means to create a business which is running, and only then we can actually be or become agents of change and leave some positive footprints behind us. And we think that we are excellently equipped to achieve this, or to contribute at least to this goal.
Thank you very much.
As you all know, there are many challenges coming along the way when you're building a project from scratch. So maybe, Thomas, starting with you, what were the main challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge was to, I think now after almost 3 years, it's sometimes even more difficult to start from something that had already been created than starting from nothing. Because when you try to change a company that was too much focused on philanthropy, and you want to bring it back to a commercial business, even a really social business, you have to change so many things in the team, in the business model, in the governance. So it's a long journey. So that's my biggest challenge, and maybe that will bring to some advice. I mean, we can learn some good lessons from that. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge. And from maybe from a business perspective, I would say that the biggest challenge, because we are not a tech company. We developed a water treatment machine that is well thought, but there is no like breakthrough innovation or something. The biggest challenge is the operational excellence, because producing a high quality water and sell it at a cheap price makes a lot of operational challenges in terms of teams, in terms of quality control, etc. So how to develop it and how to sustain it afterwards. That requires a very strong team. So I'll finish with that. The key, in my opinion, is in terms of challenge, after all the things, even the financing or something, that's the team. How you build a good team from the very beginning first, and how you get a good advisors and people that are really, I mean, taking care of your project. Even if they spend half an hour or one hour a week with you, you need to find the good team and the good advisor or partners besides your company.
Sheila, what was your biggest challenge?
I will just break down the challenges into three. So just before we started the project, our challenge was, where do we get financing that has, you know, conducive terms? Because, you know, you do want a good interest rate, but that's not only the big risk that we had. We have challenges with some of the banks. They kind of engage in like predatory lending. So trying to not support you, but go after your collateral. And what we were sure with the Seco Startup Fund, I mean, they're not interested to take our collateral. So you have comfort that your interests are aligned at the end of the day. And so, you know, that's how we mitigated that challenge. And then on the operational phase, of course, purchasing materials. So Uganda has very good deposits of granite and marble, but it's not processed. So then in the end, we have to import the granite to put into the facility, and then this just takes time with all the sourcing and stuff like that. And then from an operational perspective, of course, once we were just ready to start, then COVID and the lockdown came. I mean, none of us could have seen that coming. Luckily, we hadn't fully started operations, so our costs were not too high. And now activity has picked up since restrictions have been eased and traveling is possible. And since 2 weeks, the other big challenge we're having is some of our clients, the big companies, they're starting to poach some of our employees, or trying to poach them. I mean, we convince them to stay, but they're like, you're so good, could you join us? We're like, we've spent so much time training these people. I mean, we're glad you're giving us business, but you can't do that. Maybe we'll help you find some good people. So those are our challenges.
Thank you.
When you earn money, you can keep your good employees.
Exactly. And maybe Luca to finish?
Yes, I would say the two very important points have been mentioned by Sheila and Thomas. We are in agriculture. We have long-term investments, and also the returns are coming not today and not tomorrow. So we need to wait 3 to 4 years, and this makes it difficult for anyone to finance such a venture. So funding is definitely an issue that we have faced. Additionally, we are young entrepreneurs. We don't enjoy much trust from the business world or from investors because we cannot show a track record so far, and I wouldn't say it's not their fault, right? So how can we prove that we are trustworthy to be invested in? Also, I would say that building up competencies and accessing skills is a difficult thing. I think that's what Thomas mentioned when he said taking time to build a team. So we invest a lot in just being with everyone around here, building a team, training, or just best practices, health and safety at work, and then of course also the things which are important. How do you plant? How do you handle plants or equipment? How should it be done? So we do a lot to build a team or to build the competencies that are necessary for a farm to run. what has not been mentioned, I think, are legal or bureaucratic issues. So we are faced in an environment which is quite difficult to deal with. I guess the audience is mostly coming from Switzerland. So maybe you are already fed up with some Swiss bureaucracy, but it can be completely different. So Switzerland works quite lean and smooth. And also the legal security. So we enjoy in Switzerland a very high legal security, whereas in other countries it is there is sometimes a gap between what is written in the law and how the law is applied. Yeah, we overcame these things, or we are still overcoming these things by just applying a lot of patience. We are persistent. We need to show a high frustration tolerance. But at the same time, we also can rely on the good partnerships that we have built, so that we team up with people who understand the situations. These can be investors or other stakeholders. But if we have a partner on the other end who can understand our situation, with whom we can talk and discuss the issues that we are having, this gives us a lot of safety, that we can just continue working without having to worry that on the other end of the business, people will stop us or criticize us or question us too much.
Thank you very much. Maybe we stay with the first challenge you mentioned, Luca, because it was mentioned before, the funding. I think that's a very interesting point for many of our participants who are at the stage with their ideas where they maybe want to scale up or look for investors or funders. So can you break down, you say it's a challenge, but what was your journey, or what backup plan do you have if it doesn't work with someone? How do you look for funding? How do you mobilize it? What's the plan behind, if you can share?
So yeah, sure. What we do is we reach out to as many people as possible, as many institutions as possible. I'm in the strong belief that in Europe, in Switzerland, there is money for every project. We are one of the richest countries, and people would like to invest in good projects. The difficulty is to access these funds. And there I would say you can only access those funds when you have either a solid track record or when you're trustworthy. And yeah, as I said before, I think that's the main challenge when you are young and when you don't have a track record, because people want to see that. So we were just reaching out. We were building on the partners or the networks that we have built over the course of the last 7 to 8 years in our professional career. So because these people, they knew who we are and they knew what we could do. And like this, it was expanding, that they introduce us to someone who they think, okay, this could be an interesting person to speak to. And for example, also we got introduced to Finance Contact. We didn't find them online, but we got introduced to them through a mutual acquaintance. And I would say that's the key, that you have a long list of hundreds of organizations, and then another long list of hundreds of private people, and you talk to them and you hope that someone will believe in you and forward you to the right person.
Thank you very much. Sheila, would you like to share?
So in terms of funding, our project was funded obviously with the SECO Startup Fund facility and equity. For us, I think one thing that really stuck out was Uganda, as is the case with all emerging economies, are highly cash-based economies. So of course you're going to be asked, like, can you show us proof of your expenditure, right? And I try explaining that to the plumber or the electrician that, hey, I need the receipt, right? They're like, yeah, but I bought the things, didn't you see them? Like, you have to trust me. And you're like, yeah, but if I cannot show like how much equity I have put in, then it's a bit, difficult. So it's like a whole like education process with everyone. Like, we need clear documentation, we need accountability, because then this builds up ultimately into getting financing, like demonstrating you've put in equity and, you know, yeah, demonstrating that you've put in your equity. So I'm sure like a couple of you that are doing projects in emerging markets, this is something you really have to keep in mind. Susanne and Andreas will need this documentation if you go to Seco Startup Finance. So you definitely need to keep your receipts. If they're full of cement, if they're dirty, it's okay.
Thank you so much. Last but not least, Thomas, any words on the funding?
Yeah, I trust we find a good distance with the microphone before the end of the panel. Yeah, for us it's a bit special because the company is already quite old. So the company mainly got financed during the first years through private equity from individuals that just wanted to do something good, and by loans. That was the case of the SECO. So this can be great, but this has also some dangers, because if you're not ready with your model and you don't develop your proper economic activity to sustain the revenues, to reimburse after that, etc., it can be a problem. So what I would advise is to raise only the equity you need, not more, and also to wait a little bit for the loans as well, and maybe today, and also build something small. Like any startup, you need to show on a small scale that it can work. After that, finding the money is not a problem, honestly, especially if you do some good impact and that can be sustainable from an economic point of view. And what is great today, I will finish with that, is that recently, for now 6 months, we've managed to have a model that is trustful from an economic point of view. I don't criticize the past because everything that had been made was so great from an impact, a pure impact point of view. But recently, we've been backed by what is called now co-investment grants. So that's programs that provide you some grants, provided that first private sector brings also at least a ratio of 1-to-1 investment. So it's also a way to make the private sector and private equity more, I mean, comfortable with the risk and etc. And also it ensures to keep a strong impact in your company. So for example, and I'll finish with that, we got a 500,000 grant from USAID, but through this grant, they asked our shareholders to put around 700,000 new investment, and this program, they gave it for free. I mean, it was a pure grant, not a loan or something. But we had such a very strong due diligence that it forced us to be more efficient. Also, it gave trust to our existing shareholders, because they said if they pass the due diligence, it means the company is getting better. And it provides also trust to the new ones, because now we are looking for more institutional investors for the future. So those kind of programs are really great, in my opinion. And if you can do that earlier in your financing project, it's better. And there are some possibilities, I think.
A last question from our side, and Thomas, you started answering this question, but maybe you can elaborate a bit more on why and how you have combined the commercial and social dimensions in your business model.
Yeah, why? Because it's the only way to survive and to scale, clearly. How? By taking what was good in our model and apply it in a market where there can be some profit. And it's not a bad thing to have some profit. The profit enables to create more economic activity and to create more jobs. So, for example, the half million grant from USAID creates 2.5 million USD or Swiss francs economic activity from the entrepreneurs. So it's just great, and it creates 400 jobs. So that's how we try to do it. And how we combine, that's clearly the blended finance that is great, I feel, in terms of financial solutions today.
Luca?
What was the question?
Why and how did you combine the social and the commercial aspects in your business model?
I actually, why is not really, for me, is not even really a question, because this is just how we live and how we are. These are just part or rooted in our own principles and values. So I don't know who wants to exploit someone, who wants to chop down forests, who wants to squeeze out the last penny from the poorest. I don't know. For sure, it's not us. So I just think if you are more or less a normal human being with solid values, then that's just part of what you do. Of course, it costs more. Things are slower sometimes or more difficult, but I think it's worth it. We are, if you want to say, we are also embedded in the local and regional context. We live with the people around. So we try to engage with any local stakeholders, whether it's through employment, whether it's through supporting a football team or sponsoring the International Women's Day, or these kind of things. I think that's just the way we see business is done.
Thank you. And Sheila, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, of course, ultimately the focus is to make this commercially viable. And I believe by making the business commercially viable, we ultimately cater for the social aspects. And in the hospitality industry, you cannot run away from the social aspects anyway. Your employees interface with clients all the time. So if you do not have, equitable employment conditions, if they're not happy, you don't have dialogue, you don't have, you don't encourage them to grow personally and professionally, this directly affects your return at the end of the day. So you need to do quite a bit. So we engage them in training, we try to get them scholarships, understand what their ambitions are, but also within the community. So we had to put up electricity, transformers, and the neighbors were able to also connect with us. Then we have goodwill at the end of the day. And then this has helped us grow our numbers from initially 12 employees to about 25. And even though some of our clients try to poach our employees, they stay because they are being well catered for. So for instance, during COVID, we wouldn't say like, okay, we're going to lay you off. We kept the employees, we gave them food, organized for COVID vaccination, testing, and this way they do stay with us, and we're lucky that they feel that they are really part of the team. So if there's a problem, it's not only our problem as owners, it is their problem as well as employees. And we think this has really helped to generate business for us. And also with skilling employees, we're tapping into programs that the EU is giving to Africa, and then we ask which employee would like to participate in which ones, and then they feel their career is being catered for, and this makes them happy, and everyone is happy. The clients are happy, we're happy.
Thank you.
Can I add something? We have time. Okay. Just a few concrete examples, because for me it's obvious, but maybe for you, I mean, a water kiosk and so on. So like Sheila and Lucas said, when you create a commercially viable activity in a field that is good, you create some social good impact. That's the basis. But after that, you can increase your impact by clever collaboration with some organizations. Let's take the example of a water kiosk. If you create a water kiosk in a peri-urban area around Dakar, where people don't have a lot of access to reliable water, and they pay a lot of money, like 8 or 9% of their monthly salary to get water, already you have a good impact and you create one job. But you can go further with an organization that promotes, for example, women's inclusion. And then, instead of paying 5,000 Swiss francs to open the franchise, an organization like USAID will tell you, you have to provide 50% of women and youth among the entrepreneurs. And then they pay, instead of the entrepreneurs, like 90% of the entry fee. We got our revenue as an entry fee in the franchise. and they got their inclusion target, everybody is happy. And you mix a commercial and a social model. And you can go even further. For example, our water kiosk in rural areas, which is very risky for private equity, because otherwise investors, they provide their money, they want to minimize the risk. It's already risky to invest in water at a very low price in Africa. So in that case, other organizations are ready to finance 95 or 100% of the entry fee in rural areas, which we would not do with private investors' money. So our activity and your activity, you can think how you can adjust it, provided that it doesn't make you at risk too much with your regular business model. You can adjust it also according to the stakeholders' targets in terms of social impact. I feel it's interesting.
Thank you very much. Let's now seamlessly go over to the discussion. I see many people have been taking notes, so please go ahead. Maybe you can briefly say your name and then speak.
Hello. Hi, Decio here from Hubby. A question to Thomas, for instance. Regarding fundraising, did you also found an NGO to capture funds from donors, or how was it done? Because our experience, the many foundations, they have in that document, so we do not finance private companies, only other NGOs or foundations. Thank you.
So in the past we had a foundation, and that's also one of the reasons why we failed, because the governance was not clear, etc. And today we don't have a foundation or an NGO, and we plan to have one, but not yet. We want first to, I mean, there are enough choices today of organizations that are happy to work with a social enterprise. Some organizations still really want to work with an NGO or a foundation, but honestly, it's changing much recently. So if you really target your which organization you want to work with, there is space to avoid the creation of an additional NGO, or you can work with NGOs as partners. But in the midterm, if we want to target private people that want to spend, I don't know, 5,000 Swiss francs to help a water entrepreneur to open its business in Senegal, then we'll need definitely an NGO to get also the tax exemption for the private people and these kind of things. But at the moment, no.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm a startup coach, innovation expert, and I coach a lot of startups in the sustainability sector. And my biggest challenge actually is to explain to them that they need to reach viability, and they need to have revenue streams outside of grants, outside of loans, and build that up. What would be your advice to actually ensure people start to understand this is a requirement for sustainability and not a nice to have? Any of you? It's a mindset change in principle.
Do I go? Okay. I mean, the grants or the loans are not included in the profit and loss statement. So anyway, if you want to show traction to your investors, you need to do real revenue streams, turnover. So a loan or a grant, I mean, a grant depends. In the Swiss accountancy, sometimes you can include it, but no, you have to distinguish the cash flow, the cash plan, and the income statement, and you really have to focus on developing the income. I mean, I don't know if it replies the question.
I think the question was, how do we achieve, as people supporting entrepreneurs in the sustainability or sector, how do we manage to demonstrate that that creating profits And having investors is not a no-go, that actually it will help them reach their goals. How do you manage to change the mindsets? Maybe an example, I'm often confronted with startups and entrepreneurs who tell me, well, I'm doing this, I have this great project, but there's no way I'm ever going to accept private investor money. I'm not going to raise funds. I want to bootstrap and I want to build it up like that. But then the issue obviously is that you can never scale. It's really, and you're going to be very, very slow. So there seems to be a huge mindset barrier, a stigma around accepting money from investors, and also a fear of being then controlled by the investors and to do certain things they don't want to do. How do we overcome this barrier?
I think it's generally about putting things into perspective for these entrepreneurs, because I guess they're not doing this as a hobby. I guess they don't do this as a hobby. So it's about putting it into perspective for them. Ultimately, they would like to live off this venture. So it's like, hey, in what time frame would you like to earn from this? Like, never, forever, or in 5 years? And then I think if you personalize this, it really makes sense. I mean, just a little personal example is completely unrelated to the hotel project, is in the hydropower business, which I'm doing as a developer, but also as an advisor. I mean, we didn't want to bring on investors because you're like, and then the voting rights change once they come in as majority and you don't have say anymore. But if you demonstrate that you create value in a project, you can still tip the voting rights, or decisions are not made without you. You still have influence in this project. So like, how do you position yourself as an entrepreneur to make sure that you are a valuable asset to these projects? Then you can have a lot of influence ultimately in a project and get financing for it. And then of course, you do get returns out of it, and you get your dividends and you're happy.
Can I contribute as well? Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I would say that I don't know if that there is such a big bridge or barrier, but maybe also the three of us are sitting on the wrong side of the table to judge from that, because we obviously aren't the ones who are afraid of these kind of collaborations or partnerships. But I've seen an environment which is there to foster that or to bridge these things. For example, with exactly what you do now with the IC Forum. I've seen it with the platform for sustainable cocoa Switzerland. I know that there are other initiatives like that where you bring different stakeholders around the same table and where you can exchange ideas and see how this can unlock either a business opportunity or a social enterprise, or how you can combine forces. So I think there is a lot going on in that department, and I would say the direction is the right one, because I mean, it's my belief that as an entrepreneur we can have a very strong and long-lasting positive social and environmental impact. So I think it's the right way to go.
Maybe just 2 points. First, the entrepreneur needs to have a vision and a strategy, even if it's an early stage for the company. And depending on if he wants to become the leader of any activity in Lausanne, Vaud, or Switzerland, or Europe, or the world, it will have some impact on the business plan and the financial plan, and he will need some investors or not. So that's the first point. And second point, the investor is not an enemy. He puts his money, so he needs to succeed. So if there is a good feeling, the most important point is a good feeling. Also alignment on the vision, how many years he wants to exit. Same for the entrepreneur. Does he wants to stay 51%, or he wants to sell after X years? That needs to be discussed. I've seen some startups, great startups, even among the co-founders. One day they saw an investor coming, wanted to get 51%. And they realized they disagreed between the two co-founders. They didn't take the time to discuss, and in that case, you don't have so much time to decide, and that led to a disaster, honestly. So anyway, I'm fine. I'm done.
Yes, please go ahead. One word.
Thank you so much, guys. Tiago from Sasak Market. I think the first question is, I believe that most of us are in the same place, that is, we're probably trying to find our first investors. We're probably trying to make our first step into this all entrepreneurial mindset. What would be the greatest advice for someone that is searching for the first investors? What would be the best strategy, maybe? Grants, venture capital, equity. What would be your first recommendation? And what's the healthiest way, in your opinion, to make this first step for us?
I mean, from my perspective, it's always good to get as much free money as you possibly can. It lifts the weight off you. And from my experience with investors, I would always look at experience and your gut feeling about them, because it just goes beyond, like, you know, what's the balance sheet of the investor. If you can't get along, everything else really doesn't make sense. So if you have a good feeling about them, just, you know, dive in and try it.
Yeah, and the investor can help you, because some of them are experienced, and they can just. So you have to trust him, and yeah, I think it's important to have investors personally.
I think if you can go stepwise, if you can build it from a smaller, let's say, prototype to a bigger entity, then you don't, maybe you envision your whole project of 10 or 15 or I don't know how many millions, but you will not get that money. You will just not, except you're an exceptional character with a lot of luck. But then scale it down, make it somehow viable, and then you work on that. You sacrifice on whatever you have to sacrifice, free time or whatever luxury you have, and you make it work. And once you can prove that it works, it will get easier to get the next growth funding and the next growth funding, and you build better and more viable partnerships.
May I add something? Maybe here? I'm here, sorry. I'm Dea from EcoWork, and we have initial first funding, and maybe it's just interesting for you also. So we got first funding from Repic, which is a very interesting platform, so check that out. Could also be very interesting for most of your projects. And then you can also look into, if it's applicable for your project, into research grants. So that's another opportunity also to look into. And then depending on the countries, like for EcoWork now, we also have some CSR funding. Corporate social responsibility funding sources. So do check out various platforms or opportunities. Investors are one opportunity, but there are also different platforms. So just as advice.
Can I also add something? Maybe we can just have a small collection of investors, because that's what you're really looking for, right? I mean, we can say, yeah, I got some family office or something like that, but maybe we have one name already, Repic. There's also in Switzerland the Alternative Bank Schweiz. They go very early stage. I don't remember, it's below 100,000, but they're willing to support early stage projects. So that's also a great one. And then I think there is, depending on your sector, you'll always find some buckets of international cooperation money that are kind of more private sector oriented, because often it's very difficult to access what you also mentioned with you need a foundation, or you have a lot of reporting requirements, or it doesn't fit for other reasons, but there are some private sector initiatives. So if you're in the financial space, there's something called Swiss Capacity Building Facility. So they also give grants and then go abroad. There is the Austrian Development Corporation. They also give grants to the private sector. You can go to Germany. There is a GIZ. So there's plenty of different names, but maybe other people can also have some ideas, because I think that's what we're looking for, right? You're looking for money, so names is the best hint.
Thank you very much for this valuable information. Do we have a final question from the audience?
Actually, I have one question from Thomas. I think you had a slide where you showed how the investors changed over the 10 years. I think I missed it. And how do you see kind of the change of that? And I mean, I kind of see like investors for private sectors and investors for social sectors are kind of different. So like your kind of advice for reaching out to them?
Yeah, our case is very specific, so I think it's not applicable. But the important thing is maybe to have a strategy and not to lose too much time with investors that are not, I mean, that will never invest at you. We know we work in water in Africa at a very social price. It's useless to try to talk with any venture capital. No sense. So we identified today, after all that stages, that there is one impact fund with a lead investor, which is an industrial, that is called a water fund, focusing on Africa. This one asks for lower profitability, and yeah, we spend all our energy to try to convince them. And after that, we try to select targeted blended finance organizations, so public sector cooperation. That after that, that's a question of networking. And my only advice is try to find either a coach or an organization like you, or even a friend or a relative that can advise you, because it's so much time consuming to try to look. Or another possibility is the incubation programs. Also, it's very time consuming, so maybe select well, maybe only one time, but it can be great. I did one which is called the Social and Inclusive Business Camp. It's in France, Social and Inclusive Business Camp. And then at the end, they put you in connection with 3 or 4 very appropriate investors that completely fit with your program, and they know if you're serious or not because you've been passing the various stages. So it's also, but I won't tell you about our experience. It's too, I think, different from what you should do.
Thank you.
We also have a final question for the 3 of you. What is your main message for our audience today, and specifically to a young entrepreneur who would like to start their own social enterprise?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway from starting a venture is ultimately you do need your business plan. You can't run away from it. But if I may use, over-dwelling on the business plan and not starting kind of doesn't work. I mean, you can't forecast all the risks. You can't mitigate them on paper. I mean, none of us saw COVID coming. So you just need to like jump into the water, get your feet wet, get started, and see what's the worst that can happen is that you tried, you failed, or you tried and figured it out. And I mean, if any of you is looking to do business in Africa, I highly recommend. There's good returns, there's a lot of opportunities. If you want to scale up to Uganda, you can hold me to free market data.
So maybe just start small, cheap, clever, and if you show that it's working, even on a small part of the market, And if you show that there is a big market and you have 1 or 2 or 3 good person in your team, that will work. And have some good advisors, honestly, because you will feel alone. Sometimes I feel alone. I'm married, I'm fine, but I feel alone at work sometimes. Yeah.
I would add to that don't go with your head through the walls. Don't be naive. Look at your skill set. Not, of course, it's good to have a dream, but look what you can contribute. What is your, how can you put yourself to the best possible use? Know your strengths, and then from there develop it. I would never be an app. I could never create new Facebook because that's not my skill. But I can build a fabulous and very environmentally friendly farm because these are my skills. So I would take this as a starting point. To look what you can do, where are your strengths.
I forgot my main message, in fact. My main message was know your market. Because I think 90% of the entrepreneurs don't know their market. Even myself, I don't know enough my market. And the good investors will check at that point. The bad investors will not check. Maybe they will work with you and it's a bad thing. So.
Thank you very much for the 3 of you for being here with us. The 2 of you, Sheila and Thomas and Luca, for joining online. Thank you for the inspiration and the encouraging words. And with that, we would like to call back Susanna and Massimo on stage with us, on stage or to these funny chairs for a few final words.
So there should be a short video of the SECO Startup Fund. Yes, if you... Perfect. So we can start with that and we can talk.
Le SECO Startup Fund est un instrument de la coopération suisse au développement. Il octroie des crédits à des entrepreneurs résidant en Suisse qui développent une activité commerciale dans un pays en développement ou en transition. Un exemple. Sarah est une entrepreneuse suisse qui aimerait créer une entreprise de transformation de fruits tropicaux au Ghana. Pour ce faire, elle a besoin de capitaux supplémentaires, en plus de ses économies. Le risque est toutefois trop élevé pour une banque. Le SECO Startup Fund peut l'aider dans cette situation. Sarah envoie un plan d'affaires à Finance Contact qui gère le SECO Startup Fund et est invitée à un entretien personnel. On examine si le projet de Sarah peut devenir rentable, combien d'emplois il créera et dans quelle mesure il respectera les normes environnementales et sociales. Si toutes les exigences sont remplies, Sarah présente son projet au comité d'experts du SECO Startup Fund qui doit approuver la demande. Le contrat de crédit entre le SECO et Sarah fixe les conditions de crédit et l'impact attendu sur le développement. Pendant la mise en place de la transformation des fruits, Finance Contact visite régulièrement le projet et vérifie ses progrès et le respect des normes environnementales et sociales. Jusqu'au remboursement complet du crédit, Finance Contact conseille Sarah, l'aide si elle le souhaite à trouver des investisseurs et la met en relation avec d'autres entrepreneurs ou experts. Le SECO Startup Fund a aidé Sarah à développer son activité avec succès et continue de soutenir les futurs entrepreneurs.
Okay, this was really fresh from the press. It came in this morning at 10 o'clock, the movie, so we didn't know how time it would be. Yeah, thanks. I would just like to really thank a lot to our three entrepreneurs. I hope you liked it, and you can certainly continue the discussion with them. We work for the me and my colleague, we work for the SECO Startup Fund. I'm with it since 2014, and we presented it here, but it is certainly, it's an instrument to help startups in emerging markets. We give loans, as you heard, but it is something which probably is, many of you are probably a little bit too early. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't contact us, actually, because we have very often the situation that we are contacted by entrepreneurs. They would like us to look at their business plan. That's actually part of our mandate too. And you know, it might be that the enterprise is already ready for a loan. I think you heard the risks about loans. I would really also recommend, if you can get hold of grants, go for it. Especially in the early phases. But it's good, of course, at one point in time, if you want to create an enterprise, to really look for loans or equity, because then you get the financial discipline into it. But anyway, so if you feel you would like to discuss your plans with us, even if you are maybe at too early stage, do not hesitate to contact us. We are happy to look at it, put you in contact with we have a broad network now. As I said, I've been working in this industry for almost 30 years, yeah. So we have a broad network. We try to really keep the overview on what is happening in Switzerland and abroad in terms of finance, the different sources of finance, and to put you in touch. That's really, it's a pleasure for us to really look at everybody. And then maybe eventually, sometimes we have contact with people that come to us 2 years later again, and they're ready for us, and then we go for it.
Yes, what to add? I think from the video you get a little bit of feeling of what the SECO Startup Fund does, and I think we have many stories from entrepreneurs and startups there that were not there yet. But after a short or a longer period of time, they were ready to absorb finance from the SECO Startup Fund. What's particular about the SECO Startup Fund is that it's the only loan instrument that we have at SECO that provides directly loans to entrepreneurs. So basically, you sign up with the Swiss Confederation for a loan. We target startups that have a domicile in Switzerland, or entrepreneurs with a domicile in Switzerland, but that have activities in emerging market. That can show that they have a viable commercial business, that they can pay back the loan in 7-year time. And I think we really put as well a lot of focus on impact. We look at the SDGs. We focus mainly on jobs, but can be other type of impact in the context of the SDG. And I think it's the real value added. It's not just the money that you get from the loan, but it's really as well finance contact and the network that is around the SECO Startup Fund, because that is extremely important to have, especially at an initial phase. And then I think the other very important aspect is that finance contact helps you building a business plan. It's not an easy exercise, especially the first time. And I think, as you said, you cannot foresee the future. So, a business plan is only going to get as good as it is, but still it can help you to make plans. And that's, you don't need that just to show someone that you're eligible for funding. That's really for you as well to be able to have some sort of planning. And I think these instruments really provide that kind of know-how as well. I think on the SECO Startup Fund, that's it. As has been said, probably for a number for you is a little bit too early, but don't hesitate to contact Finance Contact. And yeah, who knows, maybe in in a few days or in a few years you'll be eligible.
Thank you very much again to both of you and to Sheila, Thomas, and Luca for your insights. And I think that we just had 2 very intense days with a lot of interactions, new information, maybe new ideas and new contacts. And I think it would be great maybe to take 1 minute to just reflect on what are you going to take home and what are the main messages and your new ideas that you will take with you today. And I think we also have a Slido if you want to write this information on the word cloud. And I think that Massimo would also like to tell you a few more words.
Okay, no, I mean, I can do some closing remarks. It's always a little bit difficult, you know, to wrap up and see what you achieved over these couple of days. So I thought, okay, I'll try to think of what I wish to take out from these, and I thought about 3 wishes, so to say. The first one is that you find your coconut bowl. So I hope that that is going to happen today still. The second one is that, you know, you could really make stock of these 2 days, and especially of today's conversation with these 3 fantastic entrepreneurs. I hope they could really bring value for you today. I mean, make no mistake, I'm fully aware that, you know, you're not going to have all questions answered in an hour and 30 minutes. But still, probably seeing that, you know, they have the same kind of challenges. They started as well where you started. They didn't have an easy journey, but they persevered. And that provides you with the right confidence to continue to get there. And the third wish is really that you manage to achieve what you want to achieve, whatever that is. I think I've seen most of your project. really great ideas, and I really wish that you can find your path to achieve the goal that you set for yourself. If that's to have a successful startup, I wish that for you. And I think Mr. President Cassis mentioned that this morning. I mean, you're not going to have an easy path. No one has. Let's be no fools, but just persevere on that. Try to find new solutions. I think the majority of your problems, I mean, you all have different projects, so the most of your problems are problems that no one had before. So you have to figure it out on your own and fix it, but don't lose the morale and try to go ahead. And maybe just to close as well, kind of officially, this Together We Are Better competition for 2022. I think this is the last event. The online website will remain online with the videos of your project, with these online sessions, with the video of the SECO Startup Fund, so you can always consult that. Please as well get to the SECO Startup Fund website. You will find more information there. We'll have after this a networking session over lunch, so don't hesitate to get back to me, to Suzanne, to Sheila, to Thomas. With Luca will be a bit more difficult because he's going offline afterwards. And thank you very much, first of all, to you all for being here during these 2 days, but as well for participating to the Together We Are Better competition. I think this is really a platform that we as Swiss International Corporation need to reach out to you. We want to do more with the private sector. We are doing more with the private sector, but we want to reach out to you as well. I want to thank you very much as well, Sheila, Thomas, and Luca, for participating here today, our guest stars. So thank you very much for making your way or for dialing in today. I think we all really appreciate that. Thank you very much as well to Finance Contact and to Suzanne to set this up and to call up on our SECO Startup Fund clients. And then, of course, thank you very much to you both for the excellent moderation, and to all the people that are back à la régie for the excellent support. I mean, everything worked out perfectly, so thank you very much. That is not usual, but I have to say, during these couple of days, you really did wonders. So thank you very much.
Nothing more to add from our side. Thank you so much, Massimo, of course, for the very nice and encouraging words. I think we can go over to lunch, the networking lunch, connect with each other, make new friends, ask your questions, and enjoy these last few hours of Together We Are Better. Thank you all.
Thank you.